The fact that the head coaching search at the University of Cincinnati is lasting this long is actually a good thing.
Are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you so much for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to our Locked On Bearcats YouTube channel. Follow it too to get an alert every time we drop a new episode. The Bearcats still without a head coach in football, and I actually think that's a good thing because this is not a search that you can rush. This is something that you have to get right. And I don't think we know who the next head coach is going to be. Obviously, we don't. But I don't even think we have an idea of who it really could be. Like, we've heard the candidates who have been mentioned. Like, we know that some of the candidates that we wanted are not coming to Cincinnati. Deion Sanders is going to Colorado. Alex Golesh is going to USF. Brian Hartline is staying in Ohio State. The Jesse Minter momentum slowed down. Obviously now because his team is playing in the college football playoff. But even like internal names, Gino Guidugli, Kerry Combs, even candidates from the MAC, Sean Lewis, Jason Candle, Mo Linguist, those names. I don't even know if it's going to be them. It could be someone whose name hasn't been mentioned yet. We didn't really hear Wes Miller's name until, I think, Wednesday of that week. And he was named head coach on Friday. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be someone whose name we haven't heard yet. Because as John Cunningham has shown us, right, he's taking his time to make sure the right guy is hired. And he's not going to reveal anything. He's going to keep this close to the vest. And I'm not sure why he does that. But you know what? I kind of like that. Keep the suspense going. Because he got Wes Miller right, and I trust he's going to get this one right too. The Wes Miller search wasn't long because the program was in dire straits, the basketball program. This football program is not in dire straits right now. I'm telling you that right now. Right? The Bearcats football program somehow compiled a 9-3 season with everything going on around them. Distractions, injuries, inconsistent play, and I'll talk about more about that in segment 3. But to me, this program is actually starting to see an uptick in players saying, you know what, I'm staying because I want to be a hometown hero. I want to play for the program. You know, Justin Wadley, Dante Corleone, and Mason Fletcher all announcing they're staying. And I think you're going to see more of that. You know, Bearcats have a bowl game coming up in less than 2 weeks. That's also news that broke over the weekend. Bearcats playing in the Fenway Bowl, which, I mean, if you're going to go to a bowl game that not a lot of people outside of Cincinnati are going to really watch or pay attention to, I think this is a really cool bowl game for the Bearcats. Fenway Park, as Dan Hoare calls his favorite place on earth, to play a football game at one of the most iconic ballparks in baseball and turn it into a football field? Heck yeah, I'm down for that. Bring back the keg of nails rivalry? Absolutely. But going back to the head coaching search, which is what everybody's talking about, and I'm going to talk about it because that's what all of you are talking about. This football program is not in dire straits. And I'm going to ask you this question. What if Luke Fickell's vision, his vision was so strong that there isn't a mass exodus of players, right? Why you're seeing players choosing to stay before they even know who the next head coach is. It took Wes Miller getting hired for Mike Saunders and Mason Madsen to pull their names out of the transfer portal, right? Tari Eason didn't even consider pulling his name out until Wes Miller was hired. So there is, you know, There is not anything to worry about, I think, with this head coaching search. I know the transfer portal's open starting today. And it's going to be very interesting to track today who's going to leave, who's going to enter their name in the transfer portal, if any more recruits are going to decommit. But the fact that this program has time to get this right, I think speaks to its culture. Players are staying. Key players are staying. And if you can get Evan Prater to stay, we haven't heard anything from Brady Dragish yet. You haven't heard anything from the Pace brothers. You haven't heard things from a lot of key players. Corey Kiner hasn't said anything. Evan Prater, of course, hasn't said anything. But a lot of them announcing their intentions to stay, I think, is key. There's no need to rush this hire. You need to get this hire right. You're going to the Power 5 conferences. And as we're going to talk about in segment 3, the Big 12 championship this past weekend, very revealing of what UC is going to walk into. But you don't need to rush this hire, right? The Bearcats didn't maybe rushed Wes Miller a little bit. I think he's going to work out. The Bearcats have been playing much better basketball as of late. By the way, last 2 games for the Bearcats, really the last 3, pretty impressive. They just beat an NCAA tournament team from last year by 26 at home. And you can say, oh, come on, it's Bryant. You win by 26, you're doing something right. Without Rob Finney and without John Newman. But again, that program had 4 scholarship players on the roster at the time Wes Miller was hired. That's a program in dire straits. The Bearcats football program is not anywhere close to that. They're coming off a 9-3 season that, as I'll talk about in segment 3, is actually pretty impressive, right? So you can say the season's a disappointment. I don't think it is. I think it is a resounding, actually an impressive, resounding effort. But anyway, you have time to get this right if you're Cincinnati and you're John Cunningham and you're, the search committee, anyone. Because players are choosing to stay. They're choosing to play for the program, not the coach. And that's no knock on Luke Fickell and what he's done. His vision and the culture that he built. Yes, the architect is gone. But what he built is not. And that's the key here. All right, coming up, we're hearing a lot of candidates from the MAC. Why? I'll tell you why that's also a good thing. I'll do that after I tell you how this episode of Locked On Bearcats is brought to you by Omaha Steaks, America's original butcher since 1917, and a holiday gift that's guaranteed to be loved. The holidays are here, and achieving gifting greatness when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha Steaks. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together special curated gift packages to help take the guesswork out of gifting and make you a holiday hero. Just like the Bearcats have some hometown heroes, go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON to get $30 at checkout off your order. Send an assortment of mouthwatering favorites guaranteed to impress, like the legendary Butcher's Cut, filet mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra-juicy burgers, and even easy-to-prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks is ready to ship your order right away, so shop early and beat the shipping rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com, use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to get that extra $30 off your order. Minimum order may be required. Omaha Steaks has everything you need to give a gift that's simply perfect. Gifts like perfectly aged tender steaks, juicy burgers, decadent desserts, and classic comfort meals. A gourmet gift from Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart. A gift they'll remember with every unforgettable bite. Plus, with the special radio offer, get $30 off your order. Minimum order required. Shop early and beat the shipping rush. Whether you're shopping for friends, family, colleagues, or yourself, every order is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee, Omaha Steaks. All right, thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. By the way, congratulations to the host of Locked On Sports Today, Peter Bukowski, announcing on Twitter recently that he and his wife are expecting their second child here coming up in just a few months. So very, very happy for him and his family. Peter Bukowski, the host of Locked On Sports Today and also Locked On Packers. So very happy for him and the Locked On Sports family. So back to the head coaching search. By the way, my voice, if you're wondering why I don't sound like I normally sound, well, there was a very big football game that took place at Cincinnati or in Cincinnati yesterday. But I'll get to the head coaching now because this is what you're talking about. Everybody's talking about it. I'm talking about it for you. We're hearing a lot of MAC school names. And at first, I'm seeing people on Twitter saying, oh, come on, you can't do that. I mean, you're going to the Big 12. Like, you got to go bigger than that. Here's the thing. The MAC schools are actually good schools to target. I'm going to tell you why. Recruiting. 6 Mid-American schools. And there's only 12 of them. 6 of them are in Ohio. 6! And this program that the Bearcats, they have an identity when it comes to recruiting that is paramount to keep. You got to keep Ohio ties. Even as you expand your outreach, as John Garcia Jr. goes to Texas, and Colorado, you can now sell Power 5 to recruits. That's a huge asset for them. And I know that Mid-American Conference coaches haven't had a lot of experience. I understand that. But what I also understand is smart hires. Those schools are going to recruit locally. Why? Because that's how they win. That's how they can get players. You're not going to reach out to a recruit in Texas or California and say, hey, you want to come play football at Kent State? No disrespect to Kent State. But a player in California is probably looking at an SEC school or the Pac-12. But that is how Cincinnati has become so successful. No one really knew a lot about them in 2017. They do now because they see, oh, Cincinnati, Ohio, high school football is king in this state, in this city. So even as you go to Texas and Colorado, the recruiting pipelines Luke Fickell has opened and really, really strengthened into a force. And it can take an entire program from irrelevancy to the college football playoff. Hiring a head coach like Jason Candle or Sean Lewis, they could keep that going because they know the state. And that's a huge asset. When you hire a MAC head coach, and I don't know if they're going to hire Jason Candle or Sean Lewis. I truly don't know who the Bearcats are going to hire, right? Wes Miller said after the game yesterday, he doesn't know. And if he doesn't know, that could indicate no one knows. Wes Miller probably talks to John Cunningham every day. Now, he could be saying that because he doesn't want to stir anything. And that's also something to think about. But considering how close to the vest John Cunningham is with his coaching search, maybe he's right. So, if you hire a MAC head coach, that's only going to boost recruiting. Keep those pipelines open. Keep the identity of the program. And by the way, recruiting in the state of Ohio, that hasn't been just something under Luke Fickell, right? They have done that since Brian Kelly, right? When the Bearcats became really good in 07, 08, and 09, you know how they did that? Recruiting in the city of Cincinnati. And Luke Fickell said, okay, not only that, we're going to recruit all around Ohio, 300-mile radius around Cincinnati, right? And look what it did. There's an identity now with this program. Not only are they tough and nasty, but they are driven through in-state, in-city recruiting. And for a program that was trying to identify itself under Luke Fickell, that's what they did, and they did a pretty dang good job of doing it. So going the Mid-American route, again, it's probably not what you want to see. I don't really want to see it either. I want to see a big hire. That's why I was pushing hard for Deion Sanders or Jesse Minter, Brian Hartline, Alex Golesh. None of those guys are going to work out. But perhaps maybe going the Mid-American route. And I was against it. But then I thought, you know what? They know how to recruit in the state of Ohio. You can target Cleveland. You can target Ohio State. You can talk about, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. And here's the thing, too, and this is what's going to be potentially sad for Mid-American schools, right? Say Sean Lewis goes to Cincinnati as the next head coach, right? He's going to be able to recruit the entire state. And players from Kent State are probably going to follow him. And as more and more players who would have committed to Kent State are going to commit to Cincinnati, that is going to heavily impact Mid-American football, right? But still, if you hire someone, and Sean Lewis, we hear, runs an exciting style of offense. We'll look at that more tomorrow. But I am telling you that the MAC is actually better than you think. I know the conference is not great. And after watching Ben Bryant this past year play quarterback for Cincinnati, clearly the MAC didn't prepare him well enough for the American. But we've also seen some great offenses out of the Mid-American Conference, like Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, teams who have played in New Year's Six Bowls. So to me, there is actually a lot of positives going that route, especially if you hire someone from in-state. Half the Mid-American is located in the state of Ohio, right? And if you want to keep your identity as a program in recruiting, which is an absolute lifeblood, as Reese Davis calls it, lifeblood of the sport. You know, one very important area to watch post Luke Fickell is recruiting. Because now that since Luke Fickell made recruiting matter and made you care about it when he was head coach here. But you're gonna have to keep the momentum going once you join the Big 12. And it's not going to be easy. Trust me. Because you will have players who still go to Ohio State as opposed to Cincinnati. But you can now sell to recruits Power 5. Play in the Big 12. The Big 12 just sent a team to the college football playoff. Talk about that here in just a few minutes. Like, you can come to Cincinnati, play in a Power 5 conference, and be developed into an NFL player. You couldn't do that 6 years ago. You can now. All thanks to recruiting pipelines opened and the identity of this program that the next head coach needs to keep going. It's paramount. All right, coming up, my thoughts from the Big 12 championship on Saturday. Great game. And why the Bearcats can hire either an offensive or defensive-minded head coach. I'm also going to tell you why this past season for the Bearcats was not a disappointment. We'll get into all of that after I tell you how this episode of Locked On Bearcats is brought to you by Simply Safe. At Locked On Bearcats, we believe home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the #1 rated home security system, Simply Safe. And right now, Simply Safe is offering Locked On Bearcats listeners 40% off a new security system. But don't put this off. Here's why I love Simply Safe. The safety of me, our home, our family, my family, come first all the time. And They've helped avert numerous break-ins. When we're on the road, we feel extra supported by the Simply Safe team. What I love most about it is it's so easy to control the Simply Safe app. I can see the crystal clear HD security camera feeds and the wide range of high-tech sensors. When I'm in New Orleans, Tampa Bay, which I'll be in 2 weeks, I can rely on my Simply Safe app, making sure that my home here in Oakwood, Dayton, Ohio is secure. My mom, my dog, I can make sure my apartment in Macon, Georgia is secure. Did you know Simply Safe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report? It's actually a third year in a row. And in an emergency 24/7, professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real, so you can get higher priority police response. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs under $1 a day, less than half the price of traditional home security systems. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system. Arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings anytime, anywhere. Don't miss your chance to save big on my favorite security system. Get 40% off any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege today. That's simplysafe.com/lockedoncollege. There's no safe like Simply Safe. I want to first congratulate Tulane on winning the American Championship. That was a very well-earned victory. They were clearly the best team in the conference all season, and it really just, I think, I'm watching that game, and this thought came to mind. Cincinnati gave both of those teams, despite all the injuries, inconsistent play, distractions going on around the program, the fact that Cincinnati took both of those teams to the wire and had leads in the fourth quarter in both of those games really speaks to the culture of the Bearcats football program. Now, Tulane is a really good team, right? Michael Pratt was slinging the ball on Saturday. He was slinging it. Tulane can run the ball. They can run the heck out of the ball. And they can give USC a game, I think, in the Cotton Bowl. That's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. I feel happy for I was going to have her on 2 weeks ago leading up to that game, but Maddie Hudak, Tulane grad, sideline reporter for Tulane's radio broadcast team. Congratulations to her. Congratulations to the broadcast team and the entire university community, the city of New Orleans. A tremendously well-played game. UCF was, they battled, but give Tulane credit. 2-10 to 10-2, 11-2. Cotton Bowl. Who would have thunk it? But again, the Bearcats' 9-3 season. Like, Arkansas will turn out to be a disappointing loss. But you, with 9 players lost to the NFL draft last year, and you gave both those teams games and had Tulane on the ropes in the fourth quarter, really speaks to the culture of your program. And it makes it more important to keep that going into the Big 12. Speaking of which, the Big 12 championship game, phenomenal game. Excuse me. Really, really impressive showing by both teams. Kansas State made TCU play their game, right? Kansas State wanted to run the ball. They wanted to play defense. They wanted to play physical, and they did. TCU had to work for everything. After the first drive, when TCU scored on the first possession, they go up 7-0, and you're thinking they're going to run away with that game. Kansas State, give them credit. It's proof, too, because here's the thing. The two head coaches in that game, Chris Klieman of Kansas State and Sonny Dykes of TCU. Chris Klieman's a defensive-minded head coach. Sonny Dykes is offensive-minded. It's proof that you can hire a coach on either side and still be a good football team. And I'm watching Max Duggan on Saturday. Great story, by the way, he is. You want to talk about resilience. And you want to talk about dual threat quarterbacks. And that's what you need to win in the Big 12. And Evan Prater can be that. But here's the thing. When you look at the backgrounds of Chris Klieman and Sonny Dykes. Chris Klieman's in his first season with the Wildcats. Before that, he was the head coach at North Dakota State for 5 years. He spent 2 seasons prior to that as defensive coordinator. 4 times FCS national championship. 4 times. A lot of success. But a defensive-minded head coach. You can win with that in the Big 12. Kansas State gave up the fewest points allowed per game in the Big 12 this past year at 19.6. Right? They allowed 28 to TCU, but they made them work for that 28 points. Sonny Dykes, we know him from SMU. We'll see him in the Big 12. First season. Spent 3 seasons at SMU as head coach. 3 consecutive winning seasons. Top 15 offense the last 3 years. And you go back to his offensive background. Like, he spent time at Cal, Louisiana Tech. He was an assistant under Mike Leach at Texas Tech. And we know Mike Leach is offensive-minded out the wazoos, right? TCU had a successful season. So my point is this. My point is you can hire on either side of the ball and have success. You know, just because college football is transitioning to spread offense, throwing the ball all over the field, doesn't mean that you can't win with defense. You look at the Big 12 statistically this year. Yes, TCU was the highest scoring team at 40.3 points per game. Kansas State ranked 6th at 33.2. But defensively, Kansas State only allowed 20.1 points per game. TCU gave up 25. All right? And you look at offensively, Kansas State, lowest passing yards per game. All right? But they allowed the second fewest yards per game. TCU averaged 273 yards per game. Rushing, Kansas State, 209.6. TCU was third at 200. Rushing defense, Kansas State fourth, TCU fifth. Both under 150 total rushing yards per game. So you look at what's winning in the Big 12. It is offense, but it's also defense and running the football. And Cincinnati has been about that for not only under Luke Fickell, but in any point of the last 15 plus years. Because they are a ground and pound team. Their style of play can win in the Big 12. And that all goes back to my point of you have to get this next head coaching hire right to keep the identity of the program and the culture, to keep the recruiting pipelines open, the identity, to keep the culture alive. Because this program, I think, is built to win from day one in the Big 12. That's not to say they're going to go 12-0 next year, but I think there's a chance that they can be like a Kansas State this year. Kansas State was 9-3 going into the championship game on Saturday. Now they're getting ready to play in the Sugar Bowl. Probably the biggest game they've played in since Colin Klein, their now offensive coordinator, led them to the Fiesta Bowl in 2012. Right? So you see that you can win with a defensive-minded head coach and running the football and an offensive-minded head coach that wants to throw the ball 50 times a game. Both styles of play can win. You just have to have the right head coach leading your team and your program. We'll see who that is. Maybe early this week, maybe later this week. I don't know. I do know this. On tomorrow's show, we've heard this name floated around. So would he do well at Cincinnati? We'll look into that guy and what he's done, where he's been, and could he fit in at the University of Cincinnati. Thursday, Russ Heldman is going to join me. He's back this week. We'll talk about all of this. Maybe we'll have a new head coach by then. And then Saturday, if you're feeling good and hungry, Saturday is for you. The crosstown shootout between the Bearcats and a very, very good Xavier team. A chance for the Bearcats to make a statement. Can they do it is the question. Don't forget to subscribe to our Locked On Bearcats YouTube channel. Follow it, too, to get an alert every time we drop a new episode. By the way, I'll share this because I'm very proud of it. 35 new subscribers last week. Thanks to the live rooms, thanks to you We're up to 612 subscribers and counting, so very happy about that. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Frankie_90 with 2 N's. NNATI. You can follow me on Instagram, AlexFrank9_, or email me at alex3frank@gmail.com. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Locked On Bearcats, my name is Alex Frank. Have a great rest of your day. A good start to the week. Big win for the Bengals yesterday. Very happy about that and where that team is going. That team is immensely fun to watch. And major credit to James Rapine and Jake Lisco, who host Locked On Bengals. Talk about being someone who covers the Bengals right now. What a fun job you have. And I've got a fun job covering the Bearcats in this head coaching search. And thank you for being a part of it. Back tomorrow with more on the Bearcats head coaching search. Maybe a name will be hired. So going to be a busy week. I'm off all week from work. I'm home in Ohio, so very much enjoying that. My family listening to every show here in the house. My mom and dog, that is. But everybody else is listening too, so that is great. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats your first listen every day. I'm Alex Frank for Locked On Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day, and I will be back tomorrow right here on Locked On Bearcats.